Today, we are talking about whether or not your green card can be essentially denied and you become deportable if you have a DUI offense. This is in response to last week's live where an audience asked about this bill that is going through Congress and got passed by the House already. We had a few consultations about this particular bill. People who have had DUIs, who are green card holders, who are thinking about becoming a citizen. And because people are concerned about that, I want to talk a little bit about it. And it's absolutely mind-boggling as I'm researching into it because it already passed. And the scariest thing about this particular bill is if you have a DUI offense, if you are a student, if you are a non-immigrant worker, if you're an H-1B worker, if you're a TN worker, if you are a specialty worker, if you are a green card holder, everyone other than a U.S. citizen, your ability to live and work and stay in the United States, you and your entire family, all the dependents, the privilege is gone. You're deportable, you're inadmissible. And so the nightmare situation we could see play out is you're traveling overseas on a 1 week, 2 week vacation. Suddenly this bill comes into effect. 10 years ago, you have this minor DUI on your record. You fly back into the country, the CBP officer at the border or in the airport says, sorry, this bill just got passed. Now you cannot come back in. We have to confiscate your green card. You're deportable. I understand why it is important and why the Congress, why the House has already passed it. It's very sympathetic. It is understanding, right? Because people have passed away in a DUI incident when somebody else was driving under the influence and they had prior DUI history. So it makes common sense to create a law that says if you have a DUI offense, then you should be inadmissible and deportable. I get it. You want to make America safer. This is one of the easiest things to do. Implement it and bam, America could be safer, arguably. And now whatever you're applying for, your green card renewal, your admission to come back into the United States, your registration with ICE, suddenly all of these things trigger. And so even though it was just a minor DUI offense on a freeway, now you're deportable and you lose your green card. Another major problem about if you get a DUI and you suddenly can lose your status is the very idea and framework of justice in the United States. If you are deportable or inadmissible, typically it requires a crime involving moral turpitude. It involves somebody being so bad that you get deported. And there are certain things, very, very small exceptions to this rule. For example, drug offenses, where it is so bad, we don't care about your mental state of the crime. You commit a drug offense, we will deport you, and it will become inadmissible. There's the U.S. citizens, there's lawful permanent residents, there's the non-immigrants, and there's people who are not even in the country yet. They get different types of due process in each category. If you're illegally here, you're practically have no due process. If you're legally here on a visa, you have very little due process as well. For example, we saw the students who maybe had a traffic fine years ago, suddenly their visa gets terminated without any representation, without even much of a due process on the government's end. That was a horrible, horrible situation. And then if you have a green card holder, now because of a DUI offense years ago, suddenly you could become deportable, your entire family. That's the worst thing about this law, is that the punishment does not match the crime. It is so severe. You have a DUI offense that didn't harm anybody. It was a barely DUI offense. It was your first time. Suddenly you lose your status, and what? Your children who are U.S. citizens, your spouse who are U.S. citizens, everybody suffers. The entire family has to leave the country. That is a disproportionate punishment. A U.S. citizen who has a DUI offense, maybe 30 classes, maybe a fine, maybe community service, maybe even jail time to reform them, to rehabilitate them, to do all these things to make sure that they don't do it again. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I rarely comment on laws that have not been passed yet, but this is pretty important and it's setting a precedent, and we could see what's coming. America wants to be safer, and they're going to implement a lot of more rules that are similar to this. So I guess the takeaway for anybody who's watching, who is listening, who knows about this is if you are a green card holder, get your citizenship ASAP, get it as soon as possible because, and this is what I've been saying for years now, the rights and privileges of a green card holder is getting stripped down. It is becoming less and less valuable. In the past, being a green card holder, being a citizen, almost equal footing with difference of being a citizen, you can vote. Some people don't even want to vote. Okay, then be a green card holder. But nowadays, green card holder is becoming just like a visa holder. It is on the path there. So if you have the opportunity, apply for that citizenship and secure that win before it is taken away from you.